Hey guys, it's that time again. This will be my Sega game collection. Not one of my biggest game collections I have. Obviously, if you see my PlayStation 2 games, my Xbox 360 games, not a ton here, but I definitely think it's a good amount. Sega is not. It's not a console that I really find a lot of good stuff for. I when I say good stuff, I mean games that I'll actually play. So you're not going to see too many sports games, although I do like the sport games. I think sports games on Sega, I think got a much better treatment than some sports games on the Super Nintendo. And I love sports games on the original Nintendo. Maybe I'll do a video about that later on. The other thing I love on Sega Genesis as well as Super Nintendo are those game show games, and I'll just point those out when we get to them. So we'll get right into it. I'll just go through each game real quick, and maybe I'll say a couple things about it. Maybe I won't. It'll depend on just basically how I feel about it, and we'll go from there. We'll do the boxed games first. And starting off the list, we have Toxic Crusaders. I have played this very, very briefly. It's I almost want to say a poor man's beat 'em up. It's not bad. I really just wish the controls were a little bit different. You know, let's reposition here. I think that's a lot better. Yeah. All right. We have Williams Arcade's greatest hits. This cardboard box is not in the world's best shape, but it's pretty rigid and it can stand up on its own, which is good. A lot of good games. Defender, Joust, which I do like a lot. Not a lot of people liked Joust, but I did. I thought it was a really cool game. Oh, I got one slipping. Taz and Escape from Mars. This is actually a pretty fun game. I guess you can call it an action-adventure platformer. I recommend this game if you're into the Looney Tunes franchise. I haven't played too many bad games from Looney Tunes, so I really recommend that one. Battleship. It's Battleship. I love Battleship. I think I've played every single variation of Battleship that has ever existed. So, if you like Battleship and you like Sega Genesis, get yourself Battleship. That alone is pretty cheap, so can't say no to that. Tailspin. This one I have not played. No, I haven't played Tailspin, so I'm not going to have much to say about that one. I had a buddy who played it. He said it was alright. Tailspin, better as a cartoon, apparently. Risk. I love Risk. I thought this was not the best version of Risk. However, I think it's a pretty comparable one. I'd say it's decent. I like Risk. I love the board game Risk. I love this. The Godstorm edition of Risk is a ton of fun. So if you like Risk and you like playing on the Genesis, there you go. If not, I just prefer you go out and get some of the variations of it because those are a lot more fun. NBA Jam Tournament Edition. What can I say? One of the best basketball games I have ever played. If you don't own it, you should go out and get it. The first Mortal Kombat. I prefer this. I prefer this over the Super Nintendo version. I've always preferred them over the Super Nintendo version. The only thing I felt that came close was the PlayStation version. Wheel of Fortune. If you like Wheel of Fortune, get this game. I think it's better than the SNES version only because it plays a little bit faster, but it's Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune, America's classic show. Gotta have yourself Miss Pac-Man. I can't recommend this game enough. If you love Pac-Man, you love all the old school arcade games, I recommend this. Cannot. But I am gonna throw it. The not for resale Sonic the Hedgehog. Try not to hold him as close to the camera. what can be said about this game that hasn't been said before? It's a Sega Genesis classic, a ton of fun. Get that game. I don't recommend playing the digital download version for the newer consoles. There's just something about it that just does not feel authentic. That's about as authentic as it goes. And then my first Sonic game I ever played was Sonic 2. I know, heresy, but I got the Sonic 2 bundle Sega Genesis, so this was the first Sega game I ever played. I love this game. I can't this one's probably my favorite, one of my top 3 favorite Sega Genesis games of all times. Monopoly, to be perfectly honest, I did not like this version of Monopoly. I really didn't start liking it until it got a little bit more, that's the word I want to use here, until I don't know. I guess it got more modern. Once it got the PlayStation, I felt it was more enjoyable. But that version's not bad. It's better than the original Nintendo version, I can tell you that right now. Next one was a game I played quite a bit growing up, and that's Street Fighter 2 Champions Edition, or Special Champion Edition, sorry. Yeah, it's Street Fighter 2. It's amazing. Not the best Street Fighter 2 version, but I definitely think this is amongst the top 5 of them. I would almost say Turbo and Alpha are the only two I liked a little bit more than this, and that's just because of character selection and just how fast it was. Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse. I love this game. It is a hard platformer game, but it is very, very fun. I love these Disney games on the Sega Genesis. The only thing about it that was just really tough was that a lot of the platforming was really, really difficult because you had to be spot on in a bunch of places. And probably the one boxing game I might say I like even more than Punch-Out, and I recommend that you give this a try, Evander Holyfield's Real Deal Boxing. But Punch-Out's the best. Well, here's the thing. This is a ton of fun. Yeah, I paid $3 for it, so what? Ton of fun. Let's get right in there. Whether or not it'll zoom, I don't know. Basically, it's a side-by-side point of view. It implements a system very similar to Fight Night if you play the Fight Night games. And it was this... I think that it might have been the precursor for the Fight Night games. It plays extremely smooth. It utilizes a ton of strategy, and the matches are not like super predictable. Like there's no strategy to memorize. So if you like boxing games, I highly recommend you play this. You will have a blast. Almost done with the box games. We got Jeopardy on the Sega Genesis. I like this version a lot. The only version I played at the time that I felt was better was PC, but that was the green and black version. I do like this. I thought everything ran pretty smooth, but it's tough to play those. It's tough to play these kind of games because you have to have a mindset from back in like the early 90s. Quackshot starring Donald Duck. This one I think I only played for a couple of levels. It's another platformer. It was alright. I think it focused too much on like the Indiana Jones gimmick. But it was still fun. It was still fun. I recommend it. Garfield Caught in the Act. I had this in a recent pickup video. Another platformer game. This one's actually pretty damn good. So I recommend picking that up when you can find it. It's Garfield. It was a cartoon show that I loved growing up. It was the comic strip I always read in the paper. It was the movies during the holidays I always watched, and it's just awesome. Everything about Garfield is awesome. And then we get to, excuse me, Aladdin for the Sega Genesis. I played this. I played the SNES version. I feel the only difference between the two, aside from level design and character, and the character itself, is that Aladdin can actually use a sword in this. He couldn't use it in the Super Nintendo version, and this version's also a little bit harder, which I still think it's a lot of fun. So, that's going to do it for the box games. I think that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 box games, which isn't bad. And Got a whole bunch of loose games, so bear with me. We got Road Rash, awesome biker type game where you're fighting people while on the back of a motorcycle with 2x4s, your own feet and your own hands and chains and baseball bats, I believe. It's an awesome, awesome game. Only to be even better with Road Rash 2. It played a lot more smoother. It had a lot more extras. And the soundtracks are actually very memorable. I remember playing it for hours, and just like those 16-bit music from those games were just really, it was really cool. It was like a 90s grunge garage band. So yeah, I recommend those if you're into racing games, a little bit of attitude. Sonic Spinball, a very underrated Sonic game that doesn't get nearly enough love. Some people like it, a lot of people don't. I think it's awesome. Columns, plays similar to Tetris. I actually like it more than Tetris. The soundtrack I felt was much more memorable than Tetris. But Tetris will always be Tetris and Columns will always be Columns. Sonic 3. I did like this version of Sonic very, very much. Do I think it's better than 2? I'd say it's on par. I think both of them have things about them that are better. I like Sonic 2's more playability, but Sonic 3 had some better level design, whereas Sonic 2 had just had better levels. Let's see. Mickey Mania, The Timeless Adventure of Mickey Mouse. This is probably my favorite Mickey Mouse game of all time. I highly recommend this one. Mortal Kombat 2. I think that's my favorite Mortal Kombat out of all of them. Toy Story. Pretty good game. Has a really nasty difficulty spike once you get out of the first couple of levels. Primetime NFL Football. Not a bad football game. We'll get to a better one in just a minute. I've only played this for about a couple of hours. It's alright for what it is. An underrated classic, if you like platformers, is Pugsy. This is awesome. There's just so many things about this that are cool. The boss fights are awesome. The main character is just so laid back. And it's so ingenious with what you have to use as far as progression and levels. Like, you wouldn't think to remember to carry something you'd find at the beginning of the level and you would use it toward later in the end. Like, I think one of the levels was you had to take a candle from the very beginning and you had to keep juggling it with another object, like a key, and then at the very end you'd have to use the candle in order to like get to the final level. So it was pretty cool. Got another copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, so if you need another copy, you let me know. Got a copy of Twin Cobra. I did play this. It's a really, really cool game. I love these top-down shooter type games. I don't think I played too much of this one, but from what I do remember, it's awesome. I can't say I love any kind of heli type shooter game. It's awesome. Classic Altered Beast. I can't recommend this one enough. The only thing I can say is that it does get really difficult past the first level, so be prepared to be doing a lot of continues. Comic Zone, another classic beat 'em up type game. Very, very difficult game, but the soundtrack, the design, the I guess we'll call it the new flair of it. I guess that was what sold me on it. So that is also a must-have for any collection. Vector Man. A lot of people kept telling me how awesome this was. I'll be honest. I played it and I felt it was I felt it was very underwhelming. It felt like they just took characters from the game Balls, and they gave one of them like his game. But they did make a sequel, which I do recommend over the first one. Let's see. We have Tecmo Super Bowl. I love games from the Tecmo series. This one is a good, great, amazing football game. Better than that one. So if you like sports, get the Tecmo series. They've always stayed tried and true to the player, and can't That's about it, really. They're about as good as sport games are going to get for the Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis 6-pack, which has Sonic the Hedgehog, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Revenge of Shinobi, Columns, and Super Hang-On. They're all great games. I'm surprised it took me that long. Oh, excuse me. I've got the burps today. It's much like that's about as common as it gets. I recommend getting that for Revenge of Shinobi and Columns and Streets of Rage and Golden Axe. Golden Axe is an amazing game. Fatal Labyrinth. I have played this. It's a very interesting puzzle dungeon type game. Very difficult. Very underrated. Recommend that giving a shot. It's a pretty what's the word I want to use here? Yeah, it's very underrated. It goes under the radar, and it's also very cheap. Thunder Force 2, amazing shooter game. I can't recommend that enough. The thing about those games is that they actually do get quite costly, so be prepared to spend some money. Primal Rage, a good game. I will say the arcade and the SNES version were a little bit better. I just didn't like the design on this. Okay, we got some battery dying, so we got to keep going. Maximum Carnage, good underrated beat 'em up. People give it a lot of flack. I like it a lot. The soundtrack I felt was okay for what it was on Sega Genesis. A really beat up TMNT Tournament Fighters. Awesome fighter game using the characters from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Cool Spot. I love this game. Great 90s platformer. Really stupid gimmick. Phantasy Star 3, I have not gotten a chance to play this one yet, but I have. I haven't played this version, but I have played it before on PC, so tons of fun. Amazing RPG, amazing soundtrack, amazing story. Everything about it's just awesome. Got to play the Family Feud. Awesome game, but you keep your answers in the 90s. X-Men, amazing beat-em-up type game. Only thing that was better was the second game, which had better characters, and just all around was just better. Shinobi 3, Return of the Ninja Master. I love these type of games, but you definitely need to have patience, just like the Ninja Gaiden games. You need to have patience. I felt these were a little bit harder than the Ninja Gaiden games and very underrated, so if you like those type of games, play this. And the last two, Shining Force and Shining Force 2, amazing RPGs, cannot recommend them enough. Sonic had a lot of extremely underrated RPGs. So that'll do it. We got 20 boxed and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 30 loose, so a total of 50. So thank you very much for watching.